What's up guys, Hotshotfrontier back at it again with another video. And in this video guys, we're going to be going over to see if these decks fit our budget tier list. Because you guys already know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very expensive card game. Unfortunately, you can't always afford that meta deck. But it's okay because we have a lot of amazing budget options that actually beat out a lot of the top decks. Starting off with our first budget category, we have top of budget. We have Let Him Cook, experimental, just give him some time, he'll make a nice plate for you. We have Could Win Locals, experienced pilot, because only you know your deck the best and you're probably the best with it, right? You have It's budget, but unfortunately not this format. So guys, going into our first deck, we have is Drytron, and Drytron is definitely experienced pilot. Reason being is you can actually mix this with Runic, and Runic is not that expensive as it used to be, but Drytron by itself is still an amazing Yu-Gi-Oh deck. You know, if you play the Link to Dynamondo monster, it can summon the ritual monster on your opponent's turn that stops them from using monster effects for that turn, which is kind of crazy. Next up is Gold Pride Punk, and yeah, Gold Pride Punk, top budget. Reason being is that this deck is so inexpensive, it's crazy. The Punk cards got reprinted in Monstrous Revenge. The Gold Pride cards, the highest card is Leon, $7. 21 a playset, that's crazy guys. The continuous spell they have from Cyberstorm Access used to be like $9-10, now it's like 50 cents. Like what? You guys can't do better than that. That's amazing. Ninjas, experienced pilot. Reason being is that this deck is definitely anti-Castira, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of other decks out there in the meta and this has difficulty beating them. So I think Ninjas deserves to be an experienced pilot, someone who knows the deck ins and outs, who can kind of tweak it towards what the meta is facing. Next up we have is Earth Machine, and Earth Machine, yeah, it's budget unfortunately. It's budget, but the reason being is that Earth Machine, it needs new support. It's been kind of the same thing for a while, and the deck kind of just goes down in popularity as well. So I think give it some more time, the right conditions for the format, and this deck will go off. Our next deck is Alter, guys, and guys, Let Him Cook. Reason being is I have a specific cook in mind. His name is Cinemalik. If you guys have not checked him out on YouTube, definitely go and check him out. But I can't wait to see what he cooks us, a nice plate for us with this deck. I was a little hesitant at first from it going to control to combo, but after seeing a lot of the lines, this deck, it just makes sense. The new support from Duelist Nexus, it makes sense. So I can't wait to see what this deck does. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. I want to hear all your comments for this video. But let's go next with Black Wings, and Black Wings, Let Him Cook. It's another deck that either it could be Could Win Locals or Let Him Cook. Reason being is that it also gets support in the form of Crimson Dragon and Revolution Synchron, where a lot of decks get that boost. So I think give it time, you'll see different lists, but I can't wait to show you guys, showcase off my list with this deck. It's going to be kind of crazy. But moving on, we have Chimera, and Chimera is a new illusionist monster type that came out in Duelist Nexus. Now mixed with the branded stuff, that's crazy. And I'm not talking the expensive branded stuff, I'm talking about the cheap branded stuff. Yeah, that's right, mixed with this. The highest card in this is a fusion monster that's about $12. I think it's like the Flying Chimera monster. And that card, again, $12 too, that's pretty cheap in my opinion. And this card gets even more support in further sets, so definitely something to get now rather than later. But moving on, we have Salamangreat, and the exact reverse, unfortunately. It's budget, but reason being is Salamangreat is just not a good Cybers deck anymore for a long time. There are a lot of better Cybers decks, which we'll get into in this tier list video, but it is getting more support, so we'll see. Maybe it'll do better. Next up we have Plunder, and Plunder definitely top tier. Reason being is that Plunder plays a really good engine, and you can mix it with the Adventure engine, which is not too expensive. I know a lot of cards have gone up from there, but not too expensive. The right hand traps for the format are perfect for this deck. Next up we have is Testina. I always say Tristina for some reason, but Testina, definitely Let Him Cook. The deck just came out in Duelist Nexus, so I'd say give it time. Let's see what happens with it, but definitely anti-Castira. And Castira is top tier, right? Just, it's better than Ninjas by a lot. Next up we have is Marine Cess, and another top budget deck. Reason being is that it plays a small engine, which also allows it to play a lot of hand traps. Plus it has really good trap cards on the field. So it's a better cyber strategy in the game right now. And especially when we're in a meta where hand traps are very prevalent, this deck does insanely well. Moving on, we have the Legendary Ocean support, and definitely can win locals. So there are a lot of decks on here that you guys are probably like, what do they do? Well, that's good because the person who's using that deck, they have more of an advantage because you don't know how to stop them or what to hit. So it's pretty good. I mean, Legendary Ocean Control is a good deck. It's very cheap, so it could absolutely win locals. We always use Trap Tricks, and Trap Tricks is another top budget deck. Reason being, it's probably the best structure deck that you can buy 3 of and make a deck immediately. Evenly Match is really good, like a lot of good cards in that structure deck. You could go externally and buy even more cards if you want, but I think the 3 structure decks are just good enough, to be honest. Moving on, we have Dinomorphia, and Dinomorphia, it is either actually, I would say, could win locals. Dinomorphia is an amazing deck, don't get me wrong. I think it has limitations in terms of going into game 3 with time, but other than that, it's a very good deck. Are you happy, Adam? I put it on the list, okay? Don't hurt me. But yeah, I think Dinomorphia is a really good deck, and maybe they'll receive more support, we'll see. And it can actually get even cheaper in terms of the reprints that we get this year, so think of it like that. It's a really good deck. Next up, guys, we have the Lemuria, I don't know, let me know if I'm saying that right, but Let Him Cook definitely. Reason being is that it just got new support from Duelist Nexus, and you can actually play the deck with Grand Maju and Eater of Millions, which is kind of cool. It's like an OTK type of deck. Plus, they're getting more support in a form of a trap card from Age of Overlord, which is kind of broken. But yeah, I think I have a lot of high hopes for this deck. I want to see where it goes, but only time will tell. Next up, we have is Rescue Ace, and Rescue Ace, yeah, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people that were like, it's a meme, but yeah, the deck actually does pretty good. The only thing is, Hydrant is a $30 card, so $90 is not bad. The rest of the deck is supers and commons, like the new cards from Duelist Nexus, basically commons, like really, really cheap. And the deck has a lot of good combo lines where it protects its combos from stuff like Ash Blossom with the emergency spell card, so really good. I would definitely read up on this deck and see what it does, because it does use Cyber's cards. You're like, huh? They're machines, what? They do use Cyber's cards, so definitely read up on the deck. Moving on, we have is Elidge, and Elidge is a good trap deck, but it's budget, but unfortunately it's just not it this format. Elidge desperately needs new support, just like Earth Machine, and I don't know when we're going to get that, but it does use good hand traps, and it can also use really good trap cards as well, so we'll see what happens. Next up we have is Heroes, and they definitely can win locals. Now, I kind of want to put it between top budget to could win locals. I don't think, because the thing is, they haven't gotten new support, but since the Monsters Revenge set, but that was a really good set too, and it has propelled the deck much further, but they definitely can win locals. I really want to see Heroes win like regionals or something. They were so close, if you guys remember, like I think a few weeks ago, but hey, one day, definitely one day. Next up we have is the Draco Slayers, and Draco Slayers might be an experienced pilot, but it's also budget, but a lot of people are running that anti-spell fragrance, which really hurts the deck because, you know, it's pendulums, so you can't use those spells that are monsters, but also spells, so unfortunate. We have Godi. Godi could win locals. I love when you just summon this monster and banish everything off the field. That's a good feeling. That's like evenly matching someone. Pretty good feeling, right? I'm a terrible person. It's okay. Moving on, we have Dark World. Let Him Cook. Come on, guys. You know they got that generic spell card for the deck, which is really good. I wish it had the effect where if it's discarded, something else happens too, but it's still good support nonetheless. I think that once Destructor slowly leaves the format and gets banned, this deck goes really hard. So can't wait to see how people kind of take this deck. It could go Experienced Pilot too, but I want to say Let Him Cook. So definitely Let Him Cook. Next up is Ice Shades. Ice Shades, it's budget, but reason being is you can summon Baron Nifleur, but you can also summon the Aerogene monster, if I'm saying that right too, which basically is like a gimmick puppet, but I just don't think it's enough with just those two, and you know, you have some traps as well, but yeah, I think it just needs more or combined with a deck, right? Moving on with his Makonko, and Makonko, I would actually say top budget. Reason being is that if you guys do not know who Yu-Gi-Oh is on Instagram, definitely go ahead and check him out. Shout out to him. He actually made a first place Makonko deck. If you guys don't know what Makonko does, it is a going second build. So making it going first is actually pretty awesome, and it was great to see. But definitely, it's a very cheap deck. They got more support from Duelist Nexus in the form of a ritual monster, which is kind of cool. Next up we have is Crystal Beast, and yeah, Crystal Beast, this time I'm actually going to put it on the bottom. All right, guys, someone got offended that I put it at the bottom, but it is just, the problem is a lot of the decks on the bottom, they're just like, they're not the most terrible decks, but the thing is that they're outclassed with a lot of the decks right now on the list that are above. And I think Crystal Beast is just one of those decks. It's just way too slow. Like, you would rather play like you'd rather play like Trap Tricks, to be honest, like something that has more back row and more interaction with your opponent. But next up we have is Scareclaw, and this is like pure Scareclaw. If it was pure, I'd say it's budget, but you could do Experienced Pilot if it's running the Adventure engine to kind of protect your plays, because the Link 3 monster is pretty scary, don't get me wrong. Vanadium does not play the Link 3 monster, but playing pure or Adventure Scareclaw, yeah, definitely, you gotta watch out for that Link monster. Now we have is the Samurai, Super Heavy Samurais, and Samurais, probably Experienced Pilot. Nothing has really changed since, you know, of course, that ban list, so I think they're kind of like mid right now, but hey, who knows? Experienced Pilot can change it up. Sword Soul. Sword Soul could actually win locals, or actually I want to say let him cook. Reason being is that I recently heard that they actually can avoid Dark Ruler no more, and that's a huge progression for the deck, so that's awesome to see, and it's really cheap as well. Moving on, we have tier limits. Wow, putting tier limits on a budget list. Who would have seen the day? Not me, guys. I will also say let him cook. Tiers, I know are tiers, but hey, you will probably be showing some tiers if you've seen that deck before, but now it's been neutered so much that it's very cheap, and you're running a lot of cards. You're probably running Shaddoll monsters, you're running the hand shufflers and stuff like that, so it's a very cheap deck, and it has a lot of interaction in this format. I think that kind of combine it with more support, who knows what the deck can do. Moving on, we have the Weather Painters, and Weather Painters are actually very budget, and I think they could win locals. The deck, again, is like where the bottom is, and they're outclassed, but it's kind of like the right format for it. A lot of people want to use their graveyards, and Weather Painters are a really good anti-deck like that, so definitely I have to give them some praise and put them at could win locals. Next up, guys, what we actually have on the list is Unchained. It got new support from Duelist Nexus. I actually want to say let him cook. Reason being is that Link monster is very good for the archetype. Now the problem is it's not too expensive. I think you can still get everything under $100, which is pretty good for a Yu-Gi-Oh deck, but Abominations are about $14-15, plus the Link monsters, the Link 2 and 3, are slightly expensive, like around $14-15 as well. But combined with all of that, everything else is insanely cheap, and you can definitely run a very budget-based option deck and still do very well at locals or even regional level. We have to see in the future, but it's so good that even Labyrinth has decided to even run an Unchained engine in it, so think of it like that. Next up, guys, we have is Flunderies. Cool. All right, so next up we have is Virtual World, and Virtual World could win locals, I think, given the new support from Duelist Nexus, not in terms of like Virtual World support, but Crimson Dragon. It's very good. I mean, they've always are summoning like Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, but now they can summon out more efficiently, and they can actually go into different things. Now, it does run into the issue where it's good support for the deck, but again, everyone else is also using it. So I guess if they're versing the same deck that was already better before, they're gonna have a difficult like climb to kind of beat that deck. But if they're versing a deck that's not using that, they have a good advantage, depending on the deck, right? Now, second to last thing here, we have its Dinos. And Dinos, you could probably put Dinos as a top budget strategy. Now, it is outclassed by a few decks here, but you don't have to run the $30 spell card that came out in Wild Survivors. I'll put it on the screen for you guys to see, but and even if you do, everything else is not too expensive. Like, you know, UCTs, your Soul Eating Oviraptors, like a lot of the cards are really cheap. I think that we just need to wait for Misk, I'm gonna say this every video, to come off the list. Give it back to 3, Konami, please bring it back to 3. I can't wait, but yeah, I think that it's a top budget strategy for sure. You know, Book of Moon is the original Book of Moon person, all right? Come on, UCT. But last, guys, we have this Evil Eye. Evil Eye might be experienced pilot. We haven't seen any new support past Photon Hypernova, but I feel like the age of summoning one monster, kind of clipping it and just like hoping for the best is a little bit over. But with the right build and combining with the right engines, it could do extremely well. If you guys aren't playing any meta decks this format, I'm actually curious to see if you guys would take any of these decks and consider playing it. Let me know down below. But guys, if you like this video, make sure you give it a huge like. Comment down below, how do you feel about our tier list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you picking any of these decks this format to play? And guys, if you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you're updated the moment I upload new videos. But guys, that's it for me. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.